What is a soil? That's a really good question, especially in a soils course like this one is. Soils are unconsolidated, naturally occurring materials on the Earth's surface capable of supporting plant growth. So there's 4 parts to a soil, or the definition of a soil. One is it's naturally occurring. So soils cannot be man-made, cannot be made by people. We do make things that are soil-like to grow plants in, but those aren't technically soils because they are not naturally occurring. Soils also have to be loose. What does that mean? Well, it means they can't be really hard. There has to be some pore space, has to be able to move things around. You need that space. You need to be able to have a loose material so that roots can grow through it and water and air can penetrate and go through the material. It also makes sense that soils have to be on the surface. If a material is buried under several meters of overburden, then they probably can't grow plants very well. So a soil has to be at the Earth's surface. The other thing that makes a soil is that it must be able to support plant growth. If the material cannot support plant growth, or plants can't live on it, then it is technically not a soil. There are many loose, naturally occurring things on the Earth's surface that are not considered soils because they cannot support plant growth. Some examples of that are very coarse gravels. Sometimes you have very coarse gravels on the surface, or very high salinity or high salt soils or materials that have such a high salt concentration that plants cannot grow in them. So they would not be considered soils. However, a desert may not have anything growing in it because it's too dry. However, if you supplied water, it could support plant growth, and so therefore it is considered to be a soil. Those are the 4 things that go together to define what a soil is. So when you're looking at a soil, you have to look at those 4 things to decide if it truly is a soil or not. Like I already mentioned, some things that are not technically a soil are not naturally occurring. They do grow plants and grow plants quite well. We produce them to grow plants, but technically they are not a soil. In this course, we will consider those materials as well. Technically they're not soils, but they behave just like soils. We have developed those and devised those so that we can grow plants, and they have many of the best properties of a soil to help support plant growth. Is this a soil? Yes, it's obviously a soil because you can see that there's plants growing on it. It's a field. It's a field of soybeans, so there's soybeans growing there. It's naturally occurring. It was put there by nature, and it is very effectively growing soybeans. So it meets that criteria for a soil. It's also loose, and it's at the Earth's surface. So this would definitely be a soil. Is this a soil? It's a driveway. There's no plants growing on it, but doesn't meet the criteria for a soil. It's loose. It's not naturally occurring, but it can support plant growth. So technically, this driveway is not a soil because it doesn't meet all of the criteria for the definition of a soil. Is this a soil? It's loose. It's naturally occurring. The gravel particles are formed by nature. It's at the Earth's surface, but can it grow plants? The pore spaces between the gravel particles are way too large to grow plants, so technically this would not be a soil. Is this a soil? Yes, this is a soil. It's a forest floor. You can see plants are growing on it. It's naturally occurring. It's loose, and so it meets all the criteria of a soil.